that's fine. Okay, so the roadmap for the session is that we will just take the next 25 minutes, actually probably about 20 minutes, to make any last minute tweaks to your project proposals, which are due today at midnight. And you can submit those either in the Google Classroom or to Judy and I via email, whatever is more comfortable for you. And just as a reminder, to really just focus on the feasibility, creativity, and impact of your project, and maybe just do a last edit. You'll have another couple of hours today to work on it, and more than a couple of hours, quite a few. So we're really looking forward to reading those. A bunch of you have already been sending them in, and it's been really exciting to see all of your ideas come alive through these proposals. So for today, we're going to take the next 20 minutes to make any last minute tweaks, and also spend a little bit of time thinking about your 1 to 2 minute rapid fire pitch for your, it's not really, it's more of a description than it is a pitch. It's just to give everyone a sense in the group of what you're working on, and to share really, the problem or challenge that you've identified, relate to everyone why you care about the issue, or, like why you're passionate about it, and then communicate the value that you're hoping to create through your project. I'll send this in the chat so that everybody has it. So you can use the next 20 minutes or so however you feel. Here you go. Sorry, the formatting has disappeared from this, so I'll send it again properly, but that's the basic idea. We're just going to give you a little bit of extra time in the session, and you can also feel free to send questions in the chat. I see a question from Sanjana, so I'll respond in the chat shortly. I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes, and we can just, take some time, send any last minute questions. You can direct message Judy or I if you want to just ask us a question directly. And then we'll take the rest of the session to hear about everyone's projects. We'll hear, and it's just 1 to 2 minutes about your project using those points that I mentioned just a couple minutes ago. I'll send those in the chat as well. So let's just take 20 minutes right now. I'll set a timer.
Just say one thing. As you're thinking about your presentation, your 1 to 2 minute presentation, think about as if you were presenting it to a room full of people in a class, and be proud and be bold, and make it concise. And it's in essence the practice pitch that you're going to make as you have to talk to stakeholders and potentially people that you want to engage as funders in the future. So really think about how you could create a concise, really beautiful, heartfelt pitch.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that, Judy. Okay, the timer is set, so we'll have 20 minutes right now. And feel free to send questions or anything in the chat. This is just a chance for us to hear from each other about what we're working on in the larger group, and also a chance for you to kind of refine your ideas a little bit, and be able to, like Judy said, share with others what you're working on, and communicate really the passion behind the project. And yeah, really looking forward to hearing all of your work. Judy, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to add, listen carefully to one another, because I feel like there are many intersections between your projects, and I think that there might be some opportunities to cross-pollinate. So we're going to take notes as well, that we'll share also for the students that aren't here, but really listen attentively, because you might figure out that somebody whose square you're sitting next to has an idea that might mesh with yours and elevate it. So just a
Yeah,
thought.
and also on that note, I would love for folks to just send your responses in the chat. Let's support each other. You know, let's just all be standing with each other in this process. It's not easy to, you know, share what you've been working on, but let's, you know, send our feedback in the chat, any thoughts, any affirmation or, you know, ideas that come up. Feel free to send those in the chat because we are going to go through these fairly quickly. And we won't have time to give everyone feedback, but we will be able to hear from each other and just use the chat as a way to kind of respond. Okay, so we'll get started. Amarachi, you're first. I've put the order in the chat. We're just following alphabetical order today. And I'll send in the next list one, you know, just before Nupu goes. So Amarachi.
Okay. Thank you, Natasha, Judy. Okay. I've tagged my title, Evaluation of Water Quality using pollution indexing models for some selected community. So who are the people, who are my targets? They are basically students, staff, then policymakers. The project is tending to provide an information and knowledge about water quality and possible the decisions needed to improve water pollution. So, and when does that? It's going to last about 6 weeks, 6 weeks starting from today up to 6 weeks. Then where is about Niger Delta area. And the reason for this project is that as part of the critical sustainable development goal number 6, specifically, it's necessary to develop a framework to for meeting water needs. And since the area is more of pollution and all that, so that we can be able to provide workable solutions that can help that. So within this 6 weeks, as at the when, I've checked mine to week 1 and 2, according to what we learned on Saturday, empathic. That's where I have to be doing the full study to identify the place I want to carry out the study. Then possibly from week 3, sample collections and analysis, which is actually to definition and to ideate the project. Then for the week 4 and the 5, that's the prototype. I'm going to be having compilation, the data analysis. That is from this data, I will be able to understand and create solutions, maybe workable solution and recommendations for maybe stakeholders, resource people, and maybe WHO. Then for the week 6 is where I'm going to really do the exact awareness. It could be through maybe workshop or publications, maybe magazines, or depending on which is available. Thank you.
Thanks, Amarachi. That was exactly 2 minutes. Well done. Wonderful to hear about that. Actually, Sinan has just requested, so feel free everyone, send your feedback in the chat to Amarachi. Sinan has just requested to go right after Amarachi because in the area where he is, they're closing because of curfew. So I hope that's okay, Anyi, if Sinan just goes before you.
Thank you, Natasha. I'll just try to be as brief as possible. The problem I'm conversing is unemployment across the youth, which is around 13.2%, especially in the fishing communities. When I look at the fishing communities that we're actually working with, these are male dominated, and therefore my plan is targeting between women and especially to run the collection hub that I'll be setting up. This will place them in positions of leadership as well as provide opportunities to learn and practice skills in finance, collection, and also in machine management during the collection process. The fishery communities have been selected for this project because they have been facing reduced incomes due to climate change, with fish stocks reducing because of floods destroying and livelihoods on top of the economic effect of COVID-19. Therefore, by working in these areas and making women key to solutions.
Sinan, could you
Yes.
speak a little bit louder, please? Just a little bit louder.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but your voice is quite low.
How about now?
Yeah, that's good. Just speak a little louder.
Is it better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So by working in these fishing communities, women are key to the solution and will have the largest social and also the economic environmental impact possible, which includes providing income opportunities for over 460 women, which is out of the 660 women within the population. So the reason why do I work with this problem? I grew up sorry.
Sorry, Sinan. It sounds like there's a birthday happening right there
Yeah,
next
it's
to you.
really hard to hear.
It's really hard to hear you where you are right now. I think we got the basic gist of what you're saying. Are you there? Hello? Oh. I'm really sorry, Sinan. We've just reached the time, and he seems to have frozen, or is that just for me? He's frozen.
Frozen.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's carry on and head towards Annie. Annie says the music was amazing. Awesome. Okay, Annie, we're gonna move on to you right now, and you have about 1 to 2 minutes.
Okay, hi everyone. My project is with my organization. I'm a part of a NGO organization, so we are going to work together. Like in English, we are Climate, Environment, and Action Research Unit in words, but in Spanish, we are Cambio, Clima, Ambiente, Investigación, Acción, Uniendo Mundos. That is our real name. We are an association made up of different professionals aware of the urgency that our society demands to achieve deep change in the ways of inhabiting the world. We are united by the interest on research, strengthening. You can read this part, and we want to do research, academic actions, and rescue the local knowledge about all the issues that are related with climate change, mitigation, and adaptation to climate change. So I am in the mark of my organization, and in the project, we want to do these things. The problem that is the people in Colombia don't know about the impacts of the climate crisis in our territories. So the initiatives that some communities have to mitigate and adapt to the climate crisis are also unknown. This project idea is to create a dissemination material that could be visual, infographic, lampoons, pedagogic material about the problems and the alternatives to the climate crisis, emphasizing in my country. Why we care about these issues? Because I'm working in this organization, and in my research, I'm searching about the relationship between human and nature and the consequence of commodifying nature. So I believe that a true change in the planet implies recognizing that we are part of nature, and the object is create this conscience. So the value that we want to do in short term, the idea is to generate reflections around the human nature relationship. And in the long term, it's to start training people, trainers that allow broadening the reflections in both their training and educational context, because we are working in this moment with the students, and we want to do this more bigger. That's all. Thank you very much. And if you wanna follow us, you have our social media And in the social media, we want to share all the material that we create. Thank you.
Thank you. That was perfectly on time. Thanks so much, Annie. That's all looks incredible, and we're really looking forward to supporting you throughout this journey. Shall we go next to Caesar?
Yes, thank you, Natasha. Let me share this part of my screen of my proposal, and I'll provide my elevator pitch. Here. This is my, here it begins. And doing, let's assume that I'm door-to-door knocking or small group audience pitching my project. The honey that we find in today's grocery shelves are not really from honeybees anymore. They are instead diluted with sugar syrups, or worse, they are mixed up with high fructose syrups that aggravate diabetes and other associated cardiovascular diseases. That's because there has been a sharp decline in the number of population of bees. And not only the bees, but also other pollinating insects. And because of the use of chemicals and pesticides. But we cannot solve entirely the problem of loss of pollinating insects, but we can start somewhere small. We can create small sanctuaries for these bees, for these insects in our backyards and communities. And this is where we come in, where we can plant these, or we can do some seed bomb gardening. And then seed bomb gardening is we have created a small amount of pollinating seed mix that we can scatter in areas that are not being mowed or are usually left plain. Now, here in our a map here that I'm showing in my project proposal is the Ambler area Superfund site, which is not open to the public. However, on the peripheries of this area are walkable, where people would walk their dogs, would exercise, but nobody can enter this area. But then these are sanctuaries for wild fowls. There's a lake here, a water. The water is used in order to keep the asbestos always wet and so from being disturbed. And
Caesar, you just have about, half a minute left, just
yes,
so you know.
And these are usually the poor communities where I hope to go door to door knocking and introducing the project, which are very proximate to the Superfund area. And this is where the seed bomb gardening can take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Caesar. Fantastic. This project is incredibly exciting. And yeah, we're really looking forward to it. So next up we have Danya, Juliana, and feel free again to send your comments in the chat to Caesar or to the whole group. We have Danya, Juliana, Laura, and Macy next, and you feel free to just come right on.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. First, I would like to start.
Sorry, one second. Caesar, could you stop sharing your screen?
There you go. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Danya, go ahead.
Yes, so before I really start my pitch, I would like to share a quote with you. If we want children to flourish, to become truly empowered, then let us allow them to love the earth before we ask them to save it. My project, Education Through Art, offers an informational course to students between the ages of 8 and 20 years old. At the end of that course, an art event will be held showcasing the art pieces that the participants have made to the community. The reason why I want to do this project is because as kids, we weren't really prepared for the problems surrounding climate change that we now as young adults must face and solve. So not only do I hope to help them express their creative abilities through their unique styles of art, but also prepare these young students by giving them information in a fun, interactive way and show them that there is hope to rectify the problems by solutions they will find in nature and within themselves.
Fantastic, Tanya. Beautiful. Who's next?
It's me. Hi, everyone. The main goal of my project is to provide a better destiny to fruits, vegetables, and leaf grains that would be discarded by producers or by local markets. The project will serve communities supported by an NGO, a local NGO that works with popular communities in food insecurity. I'm driven by the sentiments of searching equality and justice. And as a food engineer, I feel more passionate about food and food destination and food security. So here in Brazil, during the pandemic, we have almost 28 million people below poverty level. 50% of Brazilian cities use irregular landfills to discard. And also producers, as you know, agricultures, put lots of effort to grow food. So we need to connect all these things, and we have all the reasons to use all the sources that we have to provide food. That's it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Juliana. That sounds incredible. Laura. Oh, Laura, is Laura with us? Oh. Oh, there you are. Laura, can you hear me? I'll reach out to her in the chat. In the meantime, let's go to the next person, Macy.
Hi, everyone. So for my project, I'm focusing on the loss of prairie grass in the United States in the middle section. And so in the state of Iowa, prairie grass actually used to cover up to 80% of the state, but today it covers less than 0.1%. And so a lot of that loss is due to urbanization and industrial agriculture, and it's led to loss of topsoil, loss of biodiversity, increased pesticide use, and so much more. And so I've always been passionate about this issue. So I wanted to find a way to connect like planting prairie grass, but also getting to find a creative way to share that process. So for my project, I'm going to be planting a prairie grass garden with my grandma on her land. And we're going to construct a blog throughout the process so we can share how we did it, but also our relationship with the land, why this is special for us, what does this mean for the land, and also like a little bit about our relationship as granddaughter and grandmother throughout the process. I'm super close with my grandma, and so I really thought this would be a fun project to do with her. And I also am a huge fan of the book Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and how she connects like her love for nature with so much about relationships in her life. And so I thought I would take that on in my own way through a blog with my grandma, and still focusing on the environmental issue of the loss of prairie grass. And so I'm hoping that the blog will be able to extend outside of my small circle in Iowa, but also invite people to get to know like the effects of industrial agriculture, but also invite people to be a part of a community of people that appreciate prairie grass. So yeah.
Fantastic. Macy, thank you for sharing that beautiful project. Looking forward to supporting you. Laura, do you want to come on next?
Hi everyone. Good evening, good morning, good evening. After hearing a couple of the projects that were going on, I decided to change up mine a little bit, to keep changing and changing. And I think there are many ideas that we can come together, as Judy mentioned before, that we'll be able to put things together and do something more communal and will benefit more people in the long run. So Rishi's project is a project dealing with trees and carbon sequestration and emissions from vehicles. And I'm thinking that's a perfect project for me to do as well here. And that way we can come up with a nice scientific paper at the end of it that can have actual impact for government and for policy making and stuff. So my project, I'm looking at a project in my community area, which is a residential area. So what I want to do is calculate the amount of carbon emission that comes from the vehicles in the community by passing up and down. We're now getting into electric cars and biofuels. So our petrol is purely the dangerous regular gas, leaded, unleaded, that's what we use. So when we calculate that now, not just calculate it, there are trees currently, we have 2 parks in the area. So what I want to do is take samples of these trees and calculate what percentage of carbon these trees sequester. When I get that, I want to do a projection for the next few years to see how much carbon we'll be able to remove, and then give that to government so they will see what could be Trinidad's input to reduce our carbon footprint. So by combining that with looking at the emissions now, I can suggest to the community leaders that to the second park, maybe we should, if we plant 10 more trees or 20 more trees, this is how much carbon we will be able to contribute. That will be our contribution, is removing that amount of carbon from the atmosphere. So that's basically what the project is about, a carbon sequestration project to advise what the amount of carbon can be reduced by planting trees and how many years it will take. And if a community comes together, the children, families come together as a project, and simple thing as on a Sunday evening, planting some trees and seeing about these trees, they can enjoy it in the longer run as well. So that's the project.
Wonderful. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Fantastic to hear. And I definitely see the connectivity with what Rishi has been working on. So it'll be really helpful for you two to support each other. I think next up, I'm not sure actually. Okay, go for it, Maria.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope you're doing well. And my project is called Environmental Awareness. And it is focused on a problem related to the waste that we are producing from our homes. And the problem is the bad or inadequate disposal and separation of our waste for proper uses by garbage collection companies in my city, Bogota, and especially in my place of residence. There is no evidence that there is an adequate separation or disposal of our garbage, and not many people know which or what is recycling and which is the importance of this activity in our homes. And also, we don't know exactly how to work with the rule of colors of bags to separate our waste. I think there is a lack of education in this topic in my residence. And also, we don't know how to use many of these materials to reuse and to not consider those like garbage, for example, in eco bricks or composting. And I think that because of that, the work of our recycler becomes something tedious or disgusting and unworthy for health and human welfare. And with the Environmental Awareness Project, I want to bring education based on leadership values for the residents of my neighborhood and generate awareness about our waste and tools to be part of the change. And I think that for my project, it's important to have values such as empathy, environmental and social responsibility, unity, and teamwork, because they are key points in my project. And that's it.
Hi, so next up is my climate action project. So as we all know, environment and climate change need a lot of attention. With my climate action project, I aim to raise awareness and educate, as in my eyes, there can never be enough information shared on important topics. Also, I feel that the future decision makers who can make a difference, but will also most likely suffer higher consequences, should be a part of the solution. So with my interactive environmental education program, we can set the first steps towards awareness and education, but also give a space for creativity in new initiatives, solutions, innovations, through hands-on small steps and actions for improving the current situation. This educational program will be specifically directed to children between the ages of 5 and 9 years in Finland and currently in Kuopio area. It is facilitated face-to-face through age-appropriate and safety-regarded workshops, where activities such as planting seeds, perhaps making seed bombs, making art from trash take place. But also the educative material will be available online or on an app to maintain the learning cycle, but also create the possibility to continue learning in a home environment, and also for us from the development side for the continuous development of the whole program. Thank you.
Thank you, Nupu. That sounds incredible. Rishi.
Yeah, let me share my screen. So this is my project, air quality optimization in Stockholm municipality. So I just found out that like generally the world is expanding and also the Stockholm. And what I mean is there's a population increase and eventually the urbanization happens. And the main target due to the urbanization in this project is air pollution. So there is an air pollution increase too. So the need for the project is I have already demonstrated this project and tried to implement in Madurai, which is my hometown. They also had the same the kind of problem, which is air pollution increase. So I just implemented the same idea, which I'm going to pitch you through simulation and modeling. And at last, the reason why I'm doing in Stockholm is just to need the people to know that this kind of idea is possible to implement and it will be successful. So the factors considered is mainly the climate and the environmental constraints. The Stockholm is in the northern part, like in the Tundra region, and the Madurai, India, is in the tropical part. So the climate is one of the main factors that need to be considered. Then the population, definitely it's very higher in India than in Stockholm. Then the pollution. Yeah, it varies, which I will be discussing in the next slide. The vehicular models and the fuels used are very different. The number of vehicles on road are drastically changing, and the people's mentality is the main thing which just need to be focused. Then the solution and values is like planting trees. I mean like samplings, herbs, shrubs, and ornamental plants, because I cannot just plant the whole tree on the sides of roads. This is like a futuristic process where I need to like keep a sampling. It will take like years to form a tree and give its full efficiency. So in order to attain this full solution, native species must be read. Then importance of trees can be like, it is an important value to know about the trees importance and how can we like strategically place and get utmost benefits of it. Then we can also implement this type of projects in different ways by,
Rishi,
yeah.
just so you know, you have about 30 seconds.
Yeah. By home gardening, facade plantation, divider plants, and urban landscaping. And this has a possibility of viewing the future air pollution as well. So these are the limitations and difficulties. Pollution in the area, the native trees available should be learned, and then calculating air pollution tolerance index, which is the main value to decide which trees can be placed to absorb the air pollutants. Then the next step is like these, like stakeholder identification, which is Stockholm municipality, then native trees, APTI index, then simulation modeling, comparison with Stockholm and Madurai if possible. So this is my project in Turning Green. Thank you.
Yay, thank you, Rishi. Wonderful. Rohini.
Yeah, I'll start. So my project is actually very similar to Maria. So it's nice to see that we both centered on the same thing despite living in completely different corners. So I'm focusing on waste collection and disposal as well. So I currently live in a cantonment area, and a lot of people do separate kitchen waste and other waste in their homes, but in the end it's futile because the collection happens not in a non-segregated manner. So my project is going to work in primarily two ways. One is putting pressure on the cantonment board to initiate administrative changes on their side, because they are the ones who outsource the waste collection to an external agency. And this recycling and all is something they are already supposed to do under government policies. So it is just a matter of getting it done. So that is one aspect of it. And the other aspect, which I will be focusing more on, since administrative action is often not fast, is awareness. So how I'm going to work is I'm going to use the youth, which is people around my age, say 15 to 23, as the channel to reach out to all the people. So because this is a very widespread area and I can't reach out to all the households directly, I will be reaching out to these people and I will be talking to them and making them realize the importance of garbage segregation first. And I will be transferring them resources such as simple WhatsApp messages, or even simple posters online, and they can pass it on to their friends and convince their families to initiate segregation in their homes. Of course, the one challenge is that there'll be less incentive for them to segregate if the garbage is going to be mixed anyway. But since the the collection change is inevitable and it is coming soon, sooner or later, I will use the fact that it is better to be prepared from early on than being faced with the change suddenly and then having to adapt. So just wrap up with the reason I chose this project is because I believe garbage is a stepping stone environmental issue in a lot of ways. One, it can convince people that there is something that they can do there is something in their own hands that they can do for the environment, and it can be a stepping stone to make people realize that the climate issue is not something that's distant and it is right here. So that is my project.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rohini, for sharing that. Really wonderful. So I'm actually seeing that we're having a couple of students joining now at the top of the hour, and I think this is probably due to the recent time change. So Cecilia, Merlin, and I'll keep looking for other folks joining. If I've missed you, just send me a note in the chat. I'm gonna communicate to you in the chat. In the meantime, Sanjana, I think you're next.
Yeah, hi. Is my voice okay? I just felt like my internet might not be okay. Okay, cool. So my climate project has actually seen multiple variations, but right now I think speaking to Judy and Natasha, I've arrived at a place that I'm happy about. But yeah, my vision for the climate action project is to use my skills with art, coordination, research, ethical storytelling, along with an aspirational skill at video creation, which is something I'm still an amateur at, and the narrative voice of the Jainu-Kuruba Adivasis, or the Honey tribe, to tell their story with an aim to usher in dialogue and action towards an anti-colonial and anti-caste vision of climate justice. The Jainu-Kurubas, just to give you context, are an indigenous community who have been evicted from their forests of Nagarhole for conservation purposes and have been campaigning for months for their rights, but due to inequalities both within and outside the environmental movement, their campaign remains largely unheard. So this is a forest that I've enjoyed many summers at, and I felt personally very saddened when I heard about their skills, about their story, and was able to reach out to them and the leaders of the movement. And through that, I was able to identify 3 specific needs that the movement leaders had. And my aim is to be able to use the skills that I have to kind of meet these 3 specific demands, which is publicity for their cause, funds to sustain their movement, and legal help to help them navigate their fight for rights. And the way I envision this me and a group of volunteers, along with some people who might already have some filmmaking knowledge, will visit Nagarhole, which is not too far away from my house, and have the Jainu Kurubas lead the narrative and tell their story, along with using illustrations and art on my side to explain some history and context to create a movie, a short film. And the goal is to share more widely the Jainu Kuruba tale, popularizing a more just version of environmental conservation. And I want to use this film as a focal point to partner with different organizations, whether it's citizen groups, environmental groups, student or youth communities, to host like film screening / fundraising sessions and educative events. And additionally, I hope to partner with organizations and groups like Alternative Law Forum and host screenings there too, so that this can be molded into one of their legal campaigns, hopefully, if people see, if Alternative Law Forum seem interested. So yeah, this is my vision for my climate action project.
I see everyone clapping. Thank you, Sanjana. Next up, Stephen.
Hello, everyone. So my project is I would say like an elevator pitch. So within the UK, education on climate change is very poor. A study by Teach the Future found that about 92% of teachers were worried about climate change, and 40% of them reported that in the school grounds, it was barely even spoken about. Nearly all countries need to educate the crisis. The UN signed this agreement with all these different countries, and yeah, this is still happening in the UK. And I think that, well, it's clear denial from the history that the UK has contributed to climate change and the crisis, from systematic issues like British colonialism, the Industrial Revolution, which was one of the things that kicked it all off, inequality, and just like a complete lack of regard for educating the future population on the crisis. And this made me really outraged around the whole situation and the like continuous denial around these toxic systems which are in place. And how do you combat this? You know, education is one of the key things, and that's the route that I'm aiming to go down, but also not just do it as the standard university degree type of course. You know, try and bring people in through lots of different workshops, attack it from different angles, make it artistic forms of expression, you know, like not just have people feel outraged or upset or in denial around the crisis, but actually provide them with the tools to be able to turn that like outrage into action, and climate anxiety into action. And in order to feel like they've got something, you know, we all have something to fight for instead of living our lives without it. I speak to a lot of my friends which aren't very tied in on that, and just very disconnected. Anyway, back to the point. I'm hoping to do this with the help of my university. They've got lecturers within the CREW unit, which was one of the first units in the world to record global temperatures. So very, very good connections. And we've got lots of different students' unions and partnerships within the university, which will help collate this information. And we're hoping to do research on students and find out what they know, how they best learn, if they know about any action or what they might like to do as a form of action, and use that information to shape our materials, which can then be formulated and shaped into a packet of information which can be shared to different universities and other students, make it really easily and accessible for all. And then this will hopefully act as a catalyst for students to pass on that information that they've learned to their parents, to their friends, and not just the information around climate change, because we all know what it is. It's more around educating on action that we can do, but also not avoiding, but kind of solving the issue of this individual kind of approach, because we are all individuals, but we're not all responsible for it. And it's down to the systems and systematic systems which I've stated that have caused the issue. And it's about like admitting to that. And yeah, that's my whole thing.
Wonderful, Stephen. Thank you. Who's next? Feel free to come on. Takunda.
Yeah. Yeah, my project relates to Zimbabwe. So in Zimbabwe, I think the population is majority rural, majority youth, and majority women. And most of the people are sustained economically as well as food related through agriculture. But then also those who participate in agriculture are largely women. But now the challenge that is there is that agriculture is not really giving returns as it was before due to climate change. But then there are some systems that are there, indigenous systems, for example, that has been used before, but that are underutilized, underdocumented, and underappreciated, relating to climate adaptation and adjustment, especially relating to issues to do with food crisis that comes from droughts and related climate crisis. So what I want to do is to explore indigenous ways of food preservation and food preservation, and also as an adaptive measure to climate change. So the outputs of the project would be to document those, to see how they do it, and to use that as an awareness mechanism, one, to show how indigenous or local communities in the global south are responding to climate change, to also give a perspective towards how climate action is also can be defined from the global south perspective by their actions in food preservation mechanisms. So what I plan to do is to do a research. The research, of course, because of the timeline, I have 3 outputs of the research that I want to come up with. From the interviews that I will do, I want to come up with a podcast. I also want to come up with an indigenous foods booklet, an ebook that I'll compile and collect all the descriptions and the narratives behind all different foods. So in the research, they shall come probably maybe 10 types of foods that are essential, and then maybe I'll profile and select a few of those to become part of the book. And what I also want to do is to come up with an academic research paper. Also, that's my strength. I was looking at my strength and I realized that I have passion also towards being an academic. So I want to contribute that by producing something that can be used even in research here in Bergen, for example, in Norway, for example. So I intend to collaborate with my school. I haven't contacted with them as yet, but the head of my program is into climate action and is the one who introduced me to this project. So she will be very excited about that. So I want to come up with a research paper, but it might not come out within this 6 weeks period because I think there's a lot that needs to be done with research. So this is like a little bit longer term plan that I have. And I will partner also with local organizations.
Just so you have about 30 seconds remaining.
Okay, thank you. And I've also been looking at partners back home. I've identified about 2 local women organizations in the rural setup who will help me to identify the respondents, interview respondents, and then once I have them, I will then develop the podcast and also the booklet and the research paper. So basically, that's how I want to go about with my research.
Fantastic. Thank you, Takunda. Thank you for sharing. Vittorio, you're up next. And you're getting some comments in the chat, so make sure to read those, everyone. Vittorio.
Hi. Yeah, I didn't notice the message, sorry. Yeah, so about my project, I changed it a little bit like most people. So I saw that a lot of people are doing kind of what I'm doing. So yeah, that's nice, I guess. So I thought that it would be really interesting to try to overcome one of the biggest challenges that sustainability has, which is like education and sharing knowledge. So to do that, I thought that it would be cool or interesting to create a platform, which I think it would be online, but maybe also physically or some sort of like pamphlet. I'm not sure about that. Which would be like accessible to everyone. It would be it consists of sharing information about the impact that of making sustainable behavior changes or implementing sustainable practices in everyday life or something like that, like using a bicycle as an example that I really is a simple one. And there will also be ways I think that would be interesting to find out how to get involved, either by pointing towards project or initiative that are already happening in your area, or by supporting in different ways. I thought that, I mean, the reason why I thought this would be important is because I really think that everyone can make a difference, even small. And even if it's small, it doesn't mean that it's worthless, because I think that, like, if a lot of people make a small change, that will create like a butterfly effect. It will actually make a great impact. And I think that, like, being aware of the importance of sustainability and the impact of that climate change has on the planet and on our lives is super important. And I thought that I either even could do that by mixing it with art or some kind of design, because I'm also like to do illustration and stuff like that. So I could also do that. But yeah, I mean, I've seen that a lot of people are doing kind of the same thing. So it would be cool to kind of like talk with all the other people that in this project are doing kind of something similar to see what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, I think I'm mostly done. Yeah, I don't think because it's like I had to change it, so I don't have a lot yet. So, but yeah, I hope we'll have more after. But yeah, for now, I'm
Thank
done.
you, Vittorio. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And I do see the resonances in terms of other folks who are focused on education as their main sort of way of communicating the ways that we can change our behavior around sustainability. So I will, yeah, definitely encourage you to link up with people who are already working on this as well. So I think finally we just have Cecilia and Merlin. I know both of you joined a little bit late because of the time change, which is totally fine. I've both sent to you what we're working on in the chat, and feel free to just share a little bit about the project that you're working on.
Hi everyone. I'm so sorry. I would love to hear about your projects. Watch the recording later. But so my project is about education as well, actually. And like I live in the northern part of Italy, specifically in the Po Valley, which has recently been classified as the most polluted region. And like kids in our community are daily exposed to, high levels of oxygen and nitrogen oxides that put their health and future at risk. So, and yet, these kids know nothing about air pollution, global warming, and climate change. They have no idea what's going on around them. And that's because they're not being taught in school about climate change and about environmental justice, for example. So what I'm planning to do is to film a short movie that shows how the Italian educational system is basically failing to introduce young people and especially children to the environmental discourse. So like the first, let's say, part of the movie will show the conversation between two siblings, and that's a conversation I had with my little brother who's 9. And I asked him, do you know what climate change is? Do you know what's going on to our planet? And he said he had no idea. And that kind of, I don't know, I realized I had to do something about it, because I was like, you've been taught in school things that matter, but climate change matters as well, especially given, the time in history we're now facing. So I'll interview several kids between 7 and 10, and I'll ask them about climate change related questions, and I'll try to reflect throughout the short movie on the additional value that these children can bring to the environmental discourse and to the solution making process we're all engaged in. And then I'll involve several youth student-led activist group that are very much active when it comes to environmental and sustainable initiatives. Still like local.
Just so you know, you have about 30 seconds remaining.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so yeah.
I don't know if I told you have about half a minute left. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll engage with local grassroots organizations, local study student-led movements, and I'll that in the end we'll have a short movie, and then in the next, let's say, phases of the projects, I'll come up with a petition to introduce indeed climate change into the curriculum, and yeah.
Yay, fantastic. It's wonderful to hear about the work that you've been doing, Cecilia, and really looking forward to this project. Merlin, I think you're up last.
Hi. Yeah, so basically, I went a long way from what I initially wanted to do to what I'm doing now, although it's so yeah, so basically I identified the water problem, which is like too much rain and too much humidity in the air. And from that I got to green roofs in Amsterdam. And then I was really focusing on I want to do something with that. But then I realized it's actually not really possible, for me at least, and a lot of corporations and city buildings have this already. It's like privately owned buildings, but people here that live in the houses don't own them, so they can't do anything. But I realized they can do something, right? Like they can put plants in their windows, they can do a lot of other things. And I feel like in bigger cities, there's like some kind of disconnection to nature. And that's also seems to be a problem where I'm from, even like in general, the more you disconnect, the more you get okay with the destruction of it, I feel like. And that's something I'm really not okay with. So yeah, that's what I care about and what I want to change about it. And at first I was thinking maybe I can create like several social media channels that especially attract like my generation and a bit younger people. But yeah, I was also realizing I'm not a social media person, so that was also not really something I personally can do alone in a short time, which got me to what I can do, which is writing essays and opinions. And then I was thinking I could get in contact also with other local groups, and so create a flyer. Basically, on the one side is an essay, and on the other side is a short manual on how to do something like growing mushrooms from coffee grounds and kitchen trash in your kitchen, and sharing that then, and it can of course be extended and continued after this initial step.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Merlin. I think that's pretty much everyone. I think it's fantastic, and we're really looking forward to supporting you on this journey. And that really goes for all of you. This is a space where you can receive support, a community that can, we can be accountable to each other, we can work together, we can exchange ideas, resources. If something is really working for you in your project and you figure something out and you know that someone else is working on a similar area, feel free to, share that information. We're all connected in the WhatsApp group and also on email. And I'm blown away too, Gabby, by all of these projects. So Judy and I are going to be reading your proposals over the course of the next couple of days. You'll hear back from us by Wednesday. And I believe that's Wednesday, midnight Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to read your projects, respond to them, send you either send you a request for a meeting or to kind of refine your proposal, or you might just get approval straight away, in which case you're good to go.